Now I've got a challenge ahead of me in the next 5.5 minutes, which is to present statistical work to you in a manner which doesn't make you all get up and run for the exits. So ladies and gentlemen, rest assured this will be a stats paper with no stats. So I'm interested in stop and search within British Muslim communities. So let's start at the beginning. What is stop and search? I don't have time for a lengthy explanation, but broadly and generally speaking, the police can stop anyone to ask their name, what they're doing and where they're going. But if they want to search you, they require reasonable grounds for suspicion. Suspicion of what? Well, being a drug dealer or carrying an offensive weapon. Not all searches require reasonable grounds for suspicion, and such circumstances might include certain forms of counter-terrorism policing. And it's this which is the real focus of today's presentation. Why is the issue important? Well, I say important, non-academics say interesting, but it's interesting because stop and search really represents a time during everyday life where members of the public meet state power and state scrutiny. Social scientists love a controversy, and there have been lots of past controversies over allegations of the police's disproportionate use of stop and search within minority communities. We might think of African Caribbean communities in London in the 80s. And these debates have really been transported to more modern times, and the themes are used to describe the policing of British Muslim communities, often in very negative terms. Right, so what do these recent debates say? Well, as I've said, scholars have argued that there's a disproportionate use of stop and search within all minority communities, but particularly within Muslim communities. I promise no stats, never trust a statistician. So recent reports have said that black people are 9 times more likely to be stopped by the police. Concerns around the policing of British Muslim communities have led to allegations that British Muslim communities have become suspect communities or have been criminalised as a community. Right, every good research project needs a research problem, a reason for it to exist. So what are the research problems connected with the study of stop and search within British Muslim communities? Well, hardly any studies use large-scale evidence. Hardly any studies use evidence of any nature, actually. That's a very sort of polemical, rhetorical arena. Where evidence is used in statistical form, it relates more often to ethnicity than religion. So stop and search figures collected by the police in respect of being Asian and being black are used to generalise about British Muslim communities. Now, there's a problem here. There's a slight unreliability with police recorded data. I say slight. Actually, the Office for National Statistics recently downgraded police recorded crime data such that it may no longer be described as official national statistics. So in sum, lots said about stop and search, often with more heat than light. So what did I do in the research project? Well, I found an alternative source of data, the Crime Survey of England and Wales. Now, some of you may know the Crime Survey surveys around 35,000 people a year. It goes house to house and face to face. The survey data I was interested in come from 2006 to 2011, a time when the Crime Survey had some good questions for studying stop and search, and it was a time of heightened concerns around stop and search within communities. Here's what I found. Being Muslim did not increase the likelihood of being stopped by any significant amount. Muslims were only 1% more likely than Christians to be stopped, and less likely than those of no religion. Muslim respondents were less likely than Christians and those of no religion to be stopped in a car. And this took into account different patterns of car ownership. However, once stopped on foot, Muslim respondents were 8 times more likely to be searched. Once stopped in a car, Muslims were nearly twice as likely to be searched. So, to recap, broadly speaking, Muslims were no more likely to be stopped during the period 2006 to 11, but were more likely to be searched. So, what does this all mean? Why does it matter? Well, I would argue it shows that grievances within British Muslim communities are far from irrational. However, I would suggest it reveals a more complicated picture than is often asserted in the journalism and academic work done on this topic. Factors such as sex, age, and ethnicity play much more of a significant role than being Muslim in terms of who's stopped and who's searched. Simply swapping the labels Asian and black for Muslim won't do. However, I would argue that the findings suggest that more police training is needed to ensure that being Muslim remains insufficient grounds for a police stop and search. Thank you.